Data is starting to flow in regarding which automakers are going to come out probably pretty clean and pretty despite tariffs, and which automakers are about to get absolutely thrashed by price increases on their products here stateside. Check this out. We have 3 graphs to sift through, all from Yahoo Finance, who's doing some of the best work out there, crunching the numbers, finding out which companies are going to be just shredded. That's the way it looks, at least in the near term. There can always be deals be made, but we're not going to stop there. After we go over those juicy graphs, we're going to hop into Mercedes-Benz. Their sales are down, what they're doing in regards to tariffs. We're going to talk about the luxury market and how Lexus and BMW are fighting it out. It is exciting. Mercedes-Benz, again, falling away out of the, I guess you could say, out of top contention nowadays. And Stellantis, what are they doing to help suppliers? Guys, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. If you're new to the channel, my name's Kirk. I talk about car news every single day. If you enjoy that, if you want to be up to date on how the tariffs are going to impact the car industry, make sure you are subscribed. And let's get into today's juicy graphs. Let's start there. Let's start with how tariffs will affect U.S. automakers. And there's different ways to look at this. If you just look at it from a dollars and cents perspective, Tesla their prices will probably go up about $1,600. Now, doesn't mean they will. This just means that if they want to cover the cost of how tariffs will affect their assembly and their parts, it would be logical for them to increase the prices this amount that you see on the screen. All right, let's start with Tata. You might be saying, Kirk, who the hell is Tata? Tata Motors owns Jaguar. You guys love to say how to say Jaguar, because if I say Jaguar, how 99% of Americans say Jaguar, you guys lose your minds. Anyways, Tata Motors, Jaguar, Land Rover, they are a hot mess express. And that's why their cars are held up at ports right now. They don't know what to do. Geely, you might be saying, who the hell is Geely? Geely's the Chinese parent company of Volvo. Volvo is very exposed here. They only make a few vehicles in their South Carolina plant. You know, at least they make some here. If you look at Jaguar, Land Rover, they make 0 cars in the United States. But Volvo makes the EX90 down in South Carolina, no longer the S60 sedan. But look how much they would have to increase prices just to cover on average. Again, this is on average. It's not saying per model. All right. These are just estimates. Mercedes, quite heavily hit. Volkswagen, quite heavily hit. And the reason is, well, Volkswagen has a lot of North American production, but here's the tricky thing. They have a lot of Mexico production. And if their cars are aligned with what used to be NAFTA, USMCA, that's what like the new version of it. If they're USMCA compliant, these Volkswagen cars, they're not going to be hit with this much price increase. However, those vehicles coming from Mexico for Volkswagen, if they don't have US parts or USMCA compliant parts, those parts will be tariffed. It's extremely convoluted, and I might have to do a separate video on that if you guys are interested, but it's really boring stuff. BMW makes the majority of their vehicles they sell in the United States here, but look how much that they would be affected. Now, Mazda, why aren't they affected as much? They import most of their cars into the United States from Mexico, especially Japan. But their cars are not nearly as expensive as BMW, so their cars won't have to go up in price, but you're going to be affected massively, to be honest. Guys, what about Mitsubishi? Mitsubishi's not even mentioned on this list. They're such an afterthought. Yahoo Finance doesn't even consider them anymore. But Mitsubishi imports every single vehicle into the United States from Japan. So if you look at here, like Jaguar, Land Rover, 0%, so is Mitsubishi. But I want to get into the next graph, otherwise we'll be here all day. Automakers to the most exposure to new Trump tariffs. Now, this is just looking at the percentage of U.S. sold vehicles that are also made in the United States. So if we look at Volvo, they're very exposed. Now, interestingly, we don't have Tata Motors, aka Jaguar, Land Rover here on this list. Maybe their sales volume's too low or something. I don't know. I don't know why they're on this list, because like 0% of their cars are sold in the United States. But if we start with Volvo, Volvo knows that they need more product diversity made in South Carolina. Their EVs that are made there, they're not going to sell great. They need to make internal combustion cars and plug-in hybrids there. But they have a new CEO, which is an old CEO. He came back, Hakan Samuelson, to help Volvo figure this out. Again, Mazda, guys, only 19%. Because here's the thing, only the CX-50 for Mazda is made in the United States. 81% of the rest of their cars come from mostly Japan, but also the Mazda 3 and the CX-30 are made down in Mexico. So they're on the line for a lot of tariffs here. Volkswagen on the line for a lot of tariffs, but we'll see. I think a few of those vehicles made in Mexico aren't going to be hit that bad by tariffs. Hyundai and Kia, though, the thing is for Kia, I worry about them because a lot of their all their K4 sales volume is out of Mexico, and if that vehicle doesn't comply with USMCA standards, then it's going to be hit with a lot of tariffs. But Hyundai and Kia import a lot of vehicles from Korea, South Korea, so they're on the line there. Mercedes on the line. Only 43% of the cars bought here are made here. Toyota. Now, a lot of Lexus models, all right? A lot of Toyota models still, like the 4Runner, all right? And the Tacoma, those are not made in the United States. So Toyota's on the line. Half of their vehicles are not made in the United States. A lot of them are made in Canada too. But again, if they're made in Mexico and Canada, they have a better chance of not being hit with the full brunt of tariffs due to the USMCA agreements. BMW. Yes, BMW is looking better than Mercedes, just barely. But they're still going to be hit pretty hard. General Motors. Isn't this ironic? General Motors, the Detroit Big Three. Let's protect the Detroit Big Three. But half of their vehicles are not made in the United States. 48% of their vehicles are not made stateside. They shipped all of them, or half of the jobs, to Canada and Mexico throughout the decades. It's kind of mind-numbing, and it makes you, it makes you question General Motors as being an American brand, because look, all these brands after Nissan makes more vehicles in the United States than General Motors. Subaru makes more vehicles here. Stellantis, Honda. Honda is one of the most American-made brands, despite their headquarters being made in Japan. Only Ford and Rivian and Tesla have more percentage of vehicles made in the United States than Honda. So that is fascinating. I can talk about this graph for a long time, but we need to get it to the next one. Tesla insulated price increases needed to offset 25% tariff impact. It's kind of similar to what we saw here. You saw Honda really low on the list. Ford low on the list. I mean, this is just some more simplified list, just looking at percentages. Here's the thing. Toyota and Hyundai have both said they're not raising prices. We don't know for Nissan. I think Nissan's staying the same on prices. Same thing with General. I don't know about General Motors. Stellantis said, hey, we're going to give you employee pricing. Same thing with Ford, but as I detailed, it's not always a better deal, and sometimes it's just a marketing ploy to get people in the door. Oh, employee pricing, when they cut incentives from the previous months. Anyways, let's get into the news. Remember Volkswagen holding cars at U.S. ports, but here's Mercedes-Benz with their sales falling, especially in China and Europe. Their EVs are down 10% from last year. Their first quarter sales in America rose 1%, so they're about flat here, while it fell 10% in China. Sales were down in Europe, guys, 10 to 7%. But despite their sales not being super hot right now, Mercedes-Benz is absorbing the tariffs on 2025 models, at least for now. They said they will not increase sticker prices on 25 models. Imports accounted for 35% of the 324-ish thousand vehicles sold in the United States. And the U.S. automaker builds high-margin utility vehicles, GLE, GLE Coupe, GLS, EQE, and EQS in Alabama. But maybe they need to make the GLC there as well, because those are their hot sellers. Even the E-Class seems to be doing quite well, so maybe they need to make those vehicles in Alabama to avoid tariffs. Quick update. Toyota said a couple days ago, hey, we're going to help tariffs, or we're going to help our suppliers with the tariff situation. We can't have our suppliers go under, then we can't make cars if we have no parts for our cars. So here's Stellantis doing the same thing. What's interesting is that Stellantis has notoriously had bad relations with their suppliers, some of the worst in the industry for years, but that was under the leadership of Carlos Tavares, and he stepped down, took his tens of millions of dollars, and is laughing his way to a yacht on vacation somewhere. We're going to keep moving. Lotus Emira imports indefinitely paused. All right. Not a big deal, but I thought I would talk about, or just mention it. Now, it's a British sports car, but it's also, Lotus is also owned by Geely, which also owns Volvo. BMW just came off its best sales year in the US ever. Now, Lexus also just came off of its best sales year ever in the United States. Deliveries rose about 4% in the first quarter, actually propelled higher by higher demand for ZEVs or BEVs. Ironically, Mercedes EVs demand is lessening and BMW's is growing overall. All right, so if we look at their BEVs that they sold 13,000 of the 87,000 total vehicles, up 26%. Sales of the i4 soared 57%, iX jumped 23%. However, the i5 EV is down 15%, i7 is down 10%. So where's Lexus? Lexus is right behind them. They're back 4,500 vehicles. It delivered a first quarter record 83,000 sales, up 6% from the year earlier. So Lexus relatively is doing a little bit better than BMW, but when you look at the numbers, BMW is still up. It's going to be a close race to the end, and tariffs could have a big effect here. Both of them import a lot of vehicles. Let's see. Oh, yeah, it's not going to show us this graph because Toyota and Lexus are kind of probably just grouped in here. But BMW, they might be hit a little bit harder with tariffs. You got to keep in mind the RX and NX, the two biggest volume sellers for Lexus, those are built in Canada. And if they are compliant with the USMCA agreements, they might not be hit with the full brunt of tariffs like the Japanese cars coming in that are imported from the Tahara plant or the Miyata plant in Japan, for example. Now, if we look at other luxury players, Porsche's first quarter sales surged 41% from a year earlier. Now, Porsche makes 0% of their cars here in the United States, but Porsche buyers, I don't know. I feel like they have so much money that tariffs are just like whatever. Audi's deliveries dipped 3.4%. Check out my review on the SQ6 e-tron that I did last night. It should be up for you guys to check out. Volvo, now going to the press page for Volvo, they're up 8% in the United States, but look, they're going in the wrong direction. Their March sales were down 8%. Electrified models are up 17%. Fully electric, 179% so far this year. Maybe that's due to the EX90 being more widely available. Plug-in hybrids are actually down 5%, and mild hybrids are up 4%. So there you have the Volvo numbers. Around the world, Volvo's first quarter deliveries fell 6%. They're sliding in Europe and China. And guys, I wouldn't be surprised if they slide the rest of the year here in the United States. Genesis surged 18% compared with the first 3 months of last year, with Infiniti sales dropping 5%. Yikes. Watch I don't know. It's not even worth watching. I'll just tell you, don't watch my review on the Infiniti QX50. It's not worth your time. That poor vehicle hasn't been updated in what feels like a decade. 13,000 vehicles for Infiniti, and Genesis has passed them once again, 17,000 vehicles. Yikes. And they don't even have dealerships. What a slap in the face to Infiniti dealers who most of them have to chuck up all this money for retail space. And meanwhile, the Genesis dealers are it's like they moved back home. They're like the boomers that moved back home or moved in with their children. They sold the dealership, they moved in with their children. I know that's not a perfect analogy, but that's kind of what's going on. They live out of Hyundai dealerships, 99% of those Genesis dealerships. So, who's laughing? Definitely Genesis, and Infiniti is they're dying. They're dead. And I have no bright spots to talk about Infiniti other than the QX80 is fine, but just buy an Armada. It's cheaper and better looking, the same thing. Anyways, but which automakers are you most surprised that are going to be hit quite massively with the tariffs? All right. It's, just because these numbers say that the prices need to go up X amount per model doesn't mean they will. And it doesn't mean the manufacturer will even touch the prices. And it doesn't mean, here's the thing. It's like, yes, they're in effect now, the tariffs, but will they be in 2 months, 3 months? Will it depend on per country basis if there's going to be deals made? I don't have a clue, and that's why you guys need to be locked in on the channel. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys in tomorrow's car news update. Have a great day and peace.